So again, I'd like to welcome you to COVID-19 Benefits Impact on SSI. My name is Vicki Ferrara, and I'm the Coordinator of Access to Integrated Employment at the Sherlock Center on Disabilities at Rhode Island College. And for this session, I'm your moderator, along with co-moderator Elaine Solicito. Over the past few weeks, the federal government passed legislation to support workers affected by the COVID-19 crisis and others. Benefits available through this legislation affect SSI and SSDI beneficiaries and benefits in different ways. We are offering this session and this information because it's important for beneficiaries and those that support them to make informed decisions. Our COVID-19 benefits series includes 3 webinars. The first is the stimulus payment, was related to the stimulus payment, which occurred last week. The second is tonight and the impact on SSI. And the third is the impact on SSDI happening tomorrow. This session is being recorded and will be posted along with all the COVID-19 benefits series at the Sherlock Center on Disabilities website on the COVID-19 page. Our agenda today will cover frequently asked questions about COVID-19 benefits. We will review 6 benefits available and their impact on SSI and Medicaid. We will share benefit-specific resources, including fact sheets, information about ABLE accounts, and work incentive planning and assistance services. During the presentation, there will also be time for questions and answers, and lastly, a brief one-question evaluation. Before I introduce the presenters, I must share our disclaimer. Information about COVID-19 benefits and how they are evolving. Meaning over time, information, rules, and requirements can change. We believe the information presented today is accurate as of April 22nd, 2020. I'm pleased to share with you today our presenters. Jean Fay is a certified work incentive benefits counselor and manages the Sherlock Center's work incentive and benefits counseling services. He has over 15 years experience providing benefits information and counseling. She is also has an adult child with a disability. She will be the primary speaker reviewing each benefit and the impact on SSI. Chris Civitolo works for the Rhode Island Office of the General Treasurer, and he will be sharing information about Rhode Island ABLE account. To start us off, I'd like to welcome Jean Fay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us for our Zoom webinar this evening. Tonight we'll be discussing some of the benefits available to individuals and families during the COVID-19 crisis. Most of the benefits are designed to help those who have experienced some type of a financial setback, but at least one of the benefits is available to most of us. Some of the benefits are traditional benefits, such as unemployment insurance and temporary disability insurance, while others are new benefits that have recently become available due to new legislation passed as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. Specifically, we'll be discussing tonight unemployment insurance, which I'll refer to as UI, pandemic unemployment assistance, which is abbreviated PUA, temporary disability insurance, or TDI, temporary caregivers insurance, or TCI, and the economic impact payment, also known as the stimulus payment, as well as the federal pandemic unemployment compensation program, which is a temporary program. We'll also be talking about how receipt of these benefits will affect SSI benefits and Medicaid. In a separate Zoom webinar tomorrow, will discuss the same benefits and their impact or effect on SSDI. Note that if you or your client receives a check on the first of the month and you have only Medicaid, chances are that you receive SSI benefits. If your check is in the amount of $783 or less, and you receive a small payment from the state of Rhode Island, you can be fairly certain that you have or your client has SSI. Now on slide 6, which is up now, there's an important reminder. As always, you and your clients or family members who receive SSI must remember to report changes in income or work activity to Social Security. You can do this by calling or writing to your local Social Security office. Of course, you can't go into the office to report, as some of you or your clients may have done in the past. But some of you may be able to report your earnings by using either your smartphone app, your My Social Security account, or the SSI call line. If you have this available to you, you should call or write Social Security to report that you are receiving some of the benefits we talked about earlier, however. You should tell Social Security if your job ends or has already ended because of COVID-19. This will trigger them to start or to restart or increase your SSI checks. You should also let them know if your earnings have increased or decreased so that they can adjust your SSI payments accordingly. You're also responsible to tell Social Security if you begin receiving benefits such as unemployment insurance, TDI, TCI, etc. In addition, you should tell Social Security if you're no longer working, but your employer is continuing to pay you. In this case, you must let Social Security know that even though your paycheck amount has not changed, that you are not actually working to earn this money. Unfortunately, this will cause a larger reduction than usual in your SSI payment because the income will now be considered unearned income rather than earnings. You should tell Social Security about any other benefit payments that you're receiving, including the $600 of unemployment insurance that you may be getting from the federal government. You should also tell them if any of your benefits stop. For example, if you get an extra $600 of unemployment and that ends in July, you should call Social Security to let them know that you're no longer receiving the $600 payment. They do not get this information automatically. Of course, you should also let Social Security know, as always, if you get a new job or if you receive a significant increase in pay. Next slide, please. Slide 7 talks about unemployment insurance, or UI. Many people are already familiar with this benefit. In order to be eligible for what I will call regular unemployment insurance, you must have worked as an employee for a certain amount of time, and this is known as your base period. You must also have had a certain minimal amount of earnings during your base period or during an alternate base period. You can easily find out more about these specifics by going to www.dlt.ri.gov/UI/. The link is provided for you on the slide. You should read the fact sheet called COVID-19 UI FAQ for more details about eligibility. Now, you may be able to collect unemployment insurance if your employer has told you not to continue to work, or if your place of business has closed and you do not have the option of working from home. However, you cannot collect unemployment insurance if your place of business is temporarily closed, but your employer is continuing to pay you. You may be able to collect unemployment insurance if you must stay at home to care for young children or a dependent adult under some circumstances. You must be the sole or primary caregiver. The person must have nowhere to go to receive care because school or daycare is closed, and the individual must require a great deal of your time and or attention or be unable to stay at home alone. Slide 8 discusses the question of whether or not you are eligible for unemployment insurance if you quit your job. Some people think you can collect unemployment insurance if you quit your job due to fear of contracting COVID-19, but this is not the case. You cannot collect unemployment insurance if you quit your job voluntarily unless you quit for good cause. Examples of good cause might be that you quit working because your doctor advised you to do so because you are at high risk. Another example might be the situation described earlier. You're the sole caregiver of an individual who needs to be cared for at home, and you are unable to work from home because it simply is not feasible. Of course, I'm sorry. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next slide discusses the amount of unemployment insurance that you might receive if you become eligible. So again, that depends on the length of employment and the amount that you earned when you were working. The minimum amount that you can receive is $53 per week, and the maximum is $586 per week. However, due to recent legislation known as the CARES Act, and the CARES Act stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the federal government will be providing an additional $600 per week, not per month, but per week, to those who are eligible for any unemployment insurance at all. So even if you would typically be receiving a $53 payment, you would actually get $653 per week. And that program is called the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, and it's FPUC for short. And that is going to continue. It's in place now, and it will continue through the end of July until the very last week of July, July 31st. Okay, so the amount of unemployment, I'm sorry, next slide, please, 10, slide 10. Thank you. You can receive, typically you can receive up to 26 weeks of unemployment insurance in Rhode Island. However, through the CARES Act, there is now a 13-week extension available, and that is provided by the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, or the PEUC legislation. So now some people may actually receive unemployment insurance for as long as 39 weeks, but that will end, that will terminate on December 31st, 2020. Next slide, please. So a very important thing that has changed, that is new with COVID-19, is a special unemployment-like benefit for those who are typically not eligible for unemployment insurance. It's called Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or PUA, and this was also authorized by the CARES Act. So you might be eligible for this benefit if you're a gig economy worker, a contract worker, a small business owner, worker for hire, if you are self-employed. Those who are denied regular unemployment insurance, possibly because they didn't have enough earnings or their earnings were inconsistent, may try to apply for this, this specific unemployment-like benefit known as PUA. Those seeking part-time employment might also be eligible for this. So anyone who's refused unemployment insurance and really doesn't have any income should give it a shot. They should apply for this benefit. And the link, www.dlt.ri.gov/UI is the same link, I believe, that I gave you on the previous slide. And you can read more about this also on the COVID-19 unemployment insurance FAQ for more details. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide gives some information about PUA, or Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. It is in the amount, as I said earlier, of $600 per week, and recipients may collect this benefit for up to 39 weeks or until December 31st, 2020. Next slide. Okay, so this slide is what will happen after July 31st. So did we skip a slide by any chance? Can we go back 1 to 13? Okay, so, nope, 13, thank you. Right, so SSI is a benefit that is based on need. UI, unemployment insurance, is unearned income. And unfortunately, benefits that are considered to be unearned income reduce SSI payments dollar for dollar, except for the first $20, which is not counted. So before July 31st, 2020, anyone who's collecting unemployment insurance or pandemic unemployment assistance will not be receiving a payment due to they will not be receiving an SSI payment because of the high amount of their benefits. If you're receiving $2,400 a month from the federal government, plus additional money from the state, you will not be getting an SSI check. However, you're going to have a whole lot more money if you're getting this $2,400 plus per month. So your SSI cash payments will stop until at least July 31st because of this extra money that you're getting. However, after July 31st, once your federal payments stop, some people will get a partial SSI payment on top of their regular unemployment insurance amount that they get from the state of Rhode Island. Slide 14, please.
Jean, before you move on to slide 14, we have a question that I think is timely.
Right.
Can someone who lost their job before the pandemic and can't find work now apply for the pandemic unemployment?
If they are not receiving any unemployment insurance at this time, and they are just applying now, I believe they would automatically get the pandemic unemployment assistance along with it, because all you have to do is be eligible for either regular unemployment insurance or pandemic unemployment insurance, and you will automatically get this $600. So I hope that answers your question.
Another question is there anything extra needed to get the $600 a week once already approved for unemployment insurance?
No, it should be automatic. When you get your unemployment check, you should see an additional $600 deposited. Some people are saying that they receive a deposit in their bank account and before they even hear back, before they hear whether or not they're approved. So keep checking your bank account if you've applied.
Okay, that was the last question.
Okay, so slide 14 shows an example of someone who is getting, and after the $600 payment stops, they're getting unemployment insurance of $700, or PUA, of $740 a month. So Social Security will not count the $720 that remains. So 783 minus 720 minus $720 is a new SSI payment of $63. So if your SSI rate was $783, and your SSI rate is what you get in benefits if you're not working, or most people get in benefits if they're not working. So now, if your SSI payment is $803 a month or more, you will not receive an SSI payment at all because of the $20 disregard. Okay, next slide, number 15, please.
Jean, as I'm switching slides, I'm going to read you another, or just a phrase.
Okay.
They've heard some people aren't getting the extra $600 yet. Could it be delayed? Is there a way for a person receiving unemployment insurance to see if an itemized description of their deposit? That's something we don't know. I don't think we would know that.
Yeah, to be honest, I have, everything I have, the information that I have, I've gotten from websites, and I don't have personal experience with this, so I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know if you can find a phone number or a contact number by looking at the IRS website for somebody that, or the DLT website, to see if there's someone you can call to find out.
So she accepts our I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll move on to the next slide.
Okay, so during the COVID-19 period, you can collect unemployment insurance or pandemic unemployment assistance without losing your Medicaid. So the state is temporarily prohibited from stopping Medicaid for people who had Medicaid before the emergency period began, and that date was May 18th, 2020. So if you had Medicaid before that date, or if you became eligible or become eligible during the crisis, DHS or Social Security will not stop your Medicaid now. So people don't have to worry much during this pandemic, at least for now, about their Medicaid situation, despite the fact that they'll be getting a lot more money in some cases than would typically allow them to have Medicaid. So again, what will happen to your unemployment insurance or PUA once the federal $600 payments end? Okay, hopefully Rhode Island will still be prohibited from stopping Medicaid. We don't know yet when the date will be. So, but hopefully after your $600 payments stop, your payments may be low enough to allow you to get an SSI payment once again, which will automatically entitle you to be able to get your Medicaid back. Because if you're receiving any SSI, even if it's only $1, you're automatically entitled to Medicaid. Next slide, please.
Jean, I want to ask you a question from one of our attendees,
Okay.
who is saying, I'm employed in Massachusetts and have been unable to work because I am caring for my autistic son who is out of school. Is there a program I can apply for?
I'm sorry, did you say that the individual lives in Massachusetts, or?
They say they're employed in Massachusetts.
Okay, but they're a resident of Rhode Island,
I'm going to assume they're a resident of Rhode Island, but they're employed in Massachusetts.
I think that the person should probably apply. It would be because the reason that they're not working is because they're staying home to care for a child. So I think that it would be, there's a possibility that it will be a no, but it's worth applying. I think there's a good possibility that they would be eligible.
Yep. All right, and you said next slide?
Next slide. Yep.
You want to be on 17.
17, please.
Yep, okay.
All right, so when your unemployment insurance ends or your PUA ends, then you should contact Social Security, because at that point, they will be able to restart or increase your SSI payment because you'll no longer have those funds. Now, of course, if you're working, your wages may then cause your SSI payments to be reduced or stopped as they usually are when you're working. So there'll be no difference there. Slide 18, please. This slide talks about unemployment insurance or PUA payments of $600 a week and their impact on other benefits that you may receive. Okay, obviously you'll be getting quite a lot more money than you did when you were simply receiving SSI. So, and it will be considered unearned income. So it may affect benefits like SNAP benefits, your HUD rent subsidy, you may have to pay a higher rent payment, but your rent can never be higher than what is considered the fair market value for the apartment that you live in. So even if your rent increases, if the apartment is worth $1,000, your rent will not go above the $1,000. So you're still going to benefit from collecting the $600 a week plus, right? And another rule is that it will not affect Medicaid. The $600 payment will not be counted when it comes to your Medicaid or the Right Care program for your children. If you have children who are receiving health insurance, that $600 will not be counted against you or against your children. So slide 19, please. So when your unemployment insurance or your pandemic unemployment assistance ends, you should definitely contact Social Security so again that they can either increase or restart your payments. And slide 20. All right, now we're moving on from unemployment insurance and PUA to TDI, or temporary disability insurance, which is a benefit that has been around for some time, and many people are familiar with this benefit. You can get TDI if you have a temporary illness or injury that is due to a non-work-related activity. This is a program that's funded by Rhode Island taxpayers. So if you become ill with the coronavirus, or if you are advised to quarantine due to the coronavirus, then you may apply for TDI. You can collect TDI for up to 30, you can collect an amount of TDI that is equal to 30 full weeks of your earnings. The minimum payment as of July 1st in 2019 was $98 a week. The maximum payment is $867 a week as of July 1st, 2019. However, you may get more if you have dependent children, you have dependents. And we can move to slide 21, please. So what is the impact of TDI on SSI and Medicaid? It's going to be the same as unemployment insurance and pandemic unemployment assistance. After the first $20, your SSI will decrease dollar for dollar. You may get a partial SSI payment if your TDI amount is low. And remember that your Medicaid will continue if you're getting only $1 in SSI. And during the crisis, the Medicaid cannot be stopped anyway. You also should report to Social Security when your TDI stops so that they can readjust your SSI benefit if necessary. We can move to slide 22, please. Other facts about TDI. TDI is not subject to federal or state income taxes. And I'm not sure if I had it on the slides, but unemployment insurance, that's $600 and plus the regular unemployment insurance that you're getting from the state, that, unlike TDI, is taxable income. So if you're receiving that, you should be setting some money aside because you will have to pay taxes on that down the road. Can I see slide 23, please? Another benefit that is available, that is not a new benefit, is TCI, or Temporary Caregivers Insurance. Again, this is a partial income replacement benefit that a person may get if they're caring for a seriously ill child, spouse, domestic partner, parent or parent-in-law, grandparent, or if they're bonding with a newborn child, a new adopted child, or a new foster care child. You can go to www.dlt.ri.gov/TDI to get more information about the temporary disability insurance program. So we can move to 24 now, please. Other facts about TCI. TCI, unlike TDI, is subject to state and federal income taxes. So again, you may want to plan or set some money aside because you will be paying taxes on the TCI. And again, it only lasts for 4 weeks. So that's an important consideration when you're deciding whether to apply for TDI or TCI. You might benefit more if you're able to get the unemployment insurance rather than the TDI. And it does have its unearned income, just like the other benefits, so it will have the same impact on SSI and Medicaid and as the other benefits we've discussed. You'll keep your Medicaid, but your SSI will either be reduced or stopped. Oh, and I already mentioned you can only collect 4 weeks of TCI, and it is subject to state and federal taxes, and it is considered to be unearned income. Slide 25, please. There is a new program that I just learned about yesterday, I believe. It has to do with SNAP benefits. And apparently they are starting a very new program where there are additional SNAP benefits available to some families in Rhode Island. So families with 1 or more children, school-aged children, who have lost access to the free or reduced price school lunches may be able to get additional SNAP benefits. The benefits will be provided to both SNAP households, people who traditionally have been getting SNAP, and also non-SNAP households where the children usually get free or reduced price lunches at school. The amount of reimbursement will be $5.70 per child per day. This is the cost of a breakfast and a lunch. The reimbursement will go back to March 16th. So people should be receiving additional SNAP benefits of $193.80 per child. If a person already has an EBT card, then that amount should be automatically added to their EBT cards. Households who have not had SNAP in the past will be receiving a EBT card, which stands for Pandemic EBT card, and it should be preloaded with $193.80. Now, most people will need this, but there will be some people who do not need it. The advice that I heard was that if people do not want this or do not need this, they can simply cut up or tear up their EBT card and not use the benefits, but they're welcome to use them if they would like to. Slide 26.
Jean, before we move on to the next slide, I'd like to ask a question related to SSI and Medicaid.
Okay.
Despite having a work history and being employed prior to the crisis, I've always had only SSI Medicaid because I never fully discontinued SSI benefits. If my payments are fully discontinued because of the PUA, will I be forced into SSDI or Medicare when my benefits resume?
You will not be forced into SSDI or Medicare unless the only way that would happen was if you have worked enough. When you get a certain number of work credits and you earn you work for long enough and you earn enough to get those credits, then you can become eligible for SSDI, and you have no choice but to accept it. So it's work that makes you eligible, not receiving any kind of benefit. So I guess my answer to your question is receiving those benefits will not cause you to have to get SSDI. But if you continue working in the future, there could come a point when you will get SSDI. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But if you have further questions, you can contact me. I'm sure Vicki will give you my email address.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
My question is, if you are an SSDI and you work and you were working, but you're laid off and you get the stimulus money, does that count towards your SSDI? The extra 600?
Oh no, it does
right now
not.
I'm able to
That is unearned income. So the only thing that affects SSDI, as we'll discuss tomorrow, the only thing that affects SSDI is earnings, earned income. So those benefits will not hurt your SSDI at all. Receiving benefits, unearned income will not affect SSDI.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? So one of the last topics that I'll be discussing is the stimulus payment, also known as the economic impact payment. Most families who have low to moderate incomes will receive a one-time payment of $1,200 per adult. There may also be a $500 payment for each dependent child who is under age 17. However, if an adult is claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return, they probably will not be claimed, they probably will not receive a stimulus payment. Okay. So an adult disabled child living at home claimed on their parents' tax return may not get a payment. These stimulus payments are great for people because they're not counted as income for people who have SSI or SSDI. They are also not counted as resources for 12 months from the date that they are received. So that means they'll have absolutely no effect on SSI or SSDI, Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, or HUD housing. Okay. Note, however, that after 12 months, they will be counted. So if you have Medicaid, or SSI benefits, you do want to be careful after 12 months that you don't exceed the resource limits for SSI or Medicaid. And I'm not sure if there's one more slide on this topic. Is there a 27? Yes, because excess resources can affect your SSI or Medicaid and cause them to stop. So if you have SSI, the resource or savings limit is only $2,000 if you're single, $3,000 if you are married. So a possible solution for this is to open what's called an ABLE account. You can put some of the additional stimulus money, and especially if you're getting that 600 unemployment bump, it might be a great time to save. So right now I'm going to stop and introduce you to Chris Civitolo, who's going to give you some information about ABLE accounts.
Thanks, Jean. I appreciate it. And good evening to everyone. As Jean mentioned, my name is Chris Civitolo, and I'm here from the Rhode Island office of the General Treasurer. So many of you may know that your Treasurer's office obviously manages state's finances. What you may not know is we also administer and sponsor an ABLE plan. And for those of you who aren't familiar with ABLE plans, ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And essentially, the ABLE programs and plans were started back in 2014 with the goal of allowing people with disabilities to be able to save for future expenses, retirement, or any other needs in a way that's both tax advantaged and didn't impact their ability to maintain both Social Security, SSI, as well as Medicaid. So I want to kind of go over a few highlights of our plan, which is referred to as Rhode Island's ABLE, and just to kind of give you a little bit of a quick background on it. So we're part of a multi-state consortium of plans, and we work with a program manager and an investment manager that helps us run the program and offer the plan to Rhode Island residents. Main advantages of an ABLE plan and kind of where this all fits into what we're talking about in terms of the CARES Act and stimulus payments and unemployment is really that it gives you, as I mentioned earlier, flexibility to save and really increases your resource limit. So before we get into that, just a couple of other points on the plan that I want to note. One thing that you have to keep in mind in order to qualify for an ABLE account and a plan, your disability did have to begin before age 26. So while you can technically be any age to open the account, you do need to, in order to be eligible, have been disabled prior to age 26. Few other points about ABLE plans and kind of some of the benefits. What they essentially allow you to do is to save up to $15,000 per year. And that can be a combination of both you saving as well as friends, family members. There are a lot of flexible contribution options. So it's not just limited to you yourself saving. The other thing that I think is really pertinent to this presentation is that if you are employed, let's say you're working part-time, you can actually save up to potentially an additional $12,500 per year, or whatever your gross wages are for that taxable year, whichever is less. So for those of you who are actually working, it's a very, very nice benefit. Now, key point here, traditionally, you obviously will all be familiar with the $2,000 resource limit for SSI, $3,000 if you're married. What ABLE accounts allow you to do, and here's where the flexibility comes in, they actually allow you to save in an ABLE account up to $100,000 before your SSI resource limit is affected. So what would happen if you, for instance, saved over $100,000? All that would happen is your payments would temporarily be suspended until you got below that limit. Very important though, regardless of what your balance is in an ABLE account, you'd still maintain your eligibility for Medicaid. So even if you had over $100,000 in an ABLE account, while your SSI benefits and payments may be temporarily suspended, you'd still retain Medicaid eligibility. So what can you use an ABLE account for and the funds in it for? Really any number of things. So any disability related expenses that can include education, job training, any of your health related expenses, home maintenance, repairs, any kind of personal assistive technology. And actually, as of a few weeks ago, food as well is now counted as an eligible expense. So I wanted to quickly talk about just kind of the structure of, how you can kind of think about the ABLE plan and what you do if you opened up an account. So essentially there are two options. One allows you to actually invest some of the money that's contributed. So I mentioned we work with a program and investment manager, and they offer you several low-cost investment options in mutual funds and exchange-traded funds that you can use. And again, any of the earnings grow tax-deferred, and as long as you use or take distributions for those qualified disability-related expenses, the money comes out tax-free as well. The second option that's very convenient and actually most of our plan participants use is it's referred to as just a checking account option. So just as you might have a checking account with a Citizens Bank or a Bank of America, our program has partnered with Fifth Third Bank, so a national bank, and they allow you to, without taking any kind of investment risk, essentially just set up a regular checking account that's FDIC insured. And they also allow you to have a debit card that goes along with that. So, depending on kind of your savings goals and what you might be potentially opening the account for, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of whether you want to actually invest the funds and potentially take on a little bit of risk, or just simply, use a checking account option, kind of have that safety available. If we could move on to the next slide. So in thinking about this, I know we've thrown a lot at you this evening, and certainly with respect to the CARES Act and also the stimulus payments, there are some nuances in terms of opening the account and kind of the effects the effects of both unearned and earned income. So I do want to encourage you to learn a little bit more about our ABLE program. So a couple ways to do that. Our website, it's ri.savewithable.com. And on that website, there's a full list of resources available. You can also request an information kit. And if you wanted to, there's actually a very easy online enrollment setup that you could follow. It takes 6 steps, and you can usually get that accomplished within about 10 to 15 minutes. Second option, we actually do have customer service representatives, program representatives available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That could answer any questions that you have about it. And then finally, my contact information is also going to be included in this PowerPoint presentation. And I'd be happy to speak to you about anything related to ABLE or answer any other questions that you might have. So don't hesitate to reach out and contact me. So with that, I know we probably have some questions and answers, and so we'll turn it over to Vicki and get started with that.
Yep. And Jean, I'm going to unmute you as well. I don't know where the questions are going to go. The first question, though, goes to you, Chris. Can I open an ABLE account with savings bonds?
So you would have to basically, you can directly do it. You'd essentially have to cash those out and then obviously contribute the funds. So the way that we accept contributions is obviously via check or electronic transfers. So not directly, but if you cash the bonds out, you'd then be able to contribute them. And as long as you stay under, again, just remember, for a calendar year, there is that contribution limit. So if you're not working, it's up to $15,000 per calendar year. So just depending on what the value of those bonds are, just keep that in mind.
All right, let's see. At this point, I think we have answered all the questions that were in the chat box. Does anybody else have any other questions that you'd like to post? Let's see. Yeah. No, I haven't seen any additional questions. I'm going to start giving some additional information.
Vicki, I'm sorry, excuse me. I see a message that was sent to me privately, so
Okay.
that's why you're probably not seeing it. And this is about ABLE accounts. For ABLE accounts, what happens to the funds if individual whose name it is opened in passes away and there is money in the account?
Yep, so very good question. So if the account owner or beneficiary in this case were to pass away, essentially whoever is the named heir would be able to take possession of those funds. There are some rules around Medicaid and potential clawback if you were receiving Medicaid. I could probably answer that in maybe a little bit more detail if there's kind of a specific question around that. But in general, if the ABLE beneficiary passes away, essentially whoever the heir is would be able to take possession of those funds. And obviously you'd be able to use them. The benefit that comes into play there is that you'd be able to use them for any kind of funeral expenses, for instance, or anything related to that.
Thank you.
The next question is still an ABLE question. Does the money in the account go again Medicaid? You may have already answered this. Will this create a spend down issue for a recipient?
No, so good question.
And the again isn't again, it's the account go against Medicaid.
Right. Yep. So good question. No, so funds in an ABLE account do not affect Medicaid. So just what I'll do is I'll just kind of go back to that point about, that $100,000 limit. So if you hit $100,000 or more in an ABLE account, it only temporarily suspends your SSI payments. It does not, however, go against or negatively impact your ability to collect Medicaid benefits.
Great. Elaine, do you have any other questions that came through to you?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. I'm going to, oh, I can't spotlight myself. Unspotlight, cancel spotlight, and I cannot. Here we go.
That's fine.
We'll get it eventually. So we have a few more resources, and Elaine, you can pay attention to the chat if any other questions come up.
Certainly.
So I wanted to inform people that the Sherlock Center does offer work incentive information and benefits counseling. Part of that is funded through the Work Incentive Planning and Assistance Program funded by the Social Security Administration. It's a grant that we have received. We also provide benefits counseling for clients who receive services through BHDDH, the Developmental Disability Program, as well. And so to stay informed about resources related to work incentive information and benefits counseling, we recommend that you join our work incentive mailing list, and you can do that through the Sherlock Center's website at www.sherlockcenter.org. We also offer public information sessions. We used to do those live and in person. Currently, we would be doing those remotely. And so if you join the mailing list, you'll be informed of when those sessions are happening. In addition, we offer benefits counseling, and to access benefits counseling, for those people who may have questions about how earnings will impact benefits, you can call the Ticket to Work helpline, and their phone number is 1-866-968-7842, or their TTY number is 1-866-833-2967. You could also contact Jean Fay at jfay@ric.edu. As we wrap up today, I want to just touch on some highlights and also bring to your attention some resources. It's important that you remember to report all changes in your benefits to whatever benefit agency that you're receiving benefits from. COVID-19 does not stop people's requirements for reporting changes. Adults with SSI recipients will receive the stimulus payment unless you've been claimed as a dependent. The federal government has 2 employment programs, enhanced unemployment insurance and the PUA. And again, we want to be paying attention to what these programs are and what changes may happen in the rules and regulations. So stay connected to those government resources to keep you informed. Medicaid does continue during this emergency period. So that's an important factor for people with disabilities to have access to Medicaid. Because some people will be getting increased money due to some of the stimulus benefits, opening an ABLE account can help you save above the SSI and Medicaid resource limits. So we encourage you to explore opening an ABLE account for that purpose. And then again, to stay informed, join email lists for SSI, for the IRS, and the Sherlock Center, so you're aware of things that have changed or new resources that become available. We do have a resource page providing you information on how to get information from the Social Security COVID-19 site. The IRS has a site specific to coronavirus and COVID-19 impact payment information, economic impact information. Rhode Island ABLE account has a website. Disability Rights Rhode Island, which is Rhode Island's client protection advocacy organization, continues to have information, or if you think that your rights are being violated, they can be a resource for you. And again, the Sherlock Center on Disabilities continues to be a resource. So that concludes our program for this evening, and we want to thank you for participating. We do have a very brief survey. Elaine, if you could launch that. It's one or two questions. And we also want you to be aware that all of the information that we shared with you today will be posted on the Sherlock Center's COVID-19 page, and currently can be accessed from our home page. So if you could take a minute and answer the question. There are two questions that we're going to have you answer. So this one will be open for a minute, and then we'll open the next question.
You see.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Question is, so I heard you say earlier that somebody, if they were claimed as a dependent, then they won't get the stimulus. But what happens if somebody on their taxes said that they could be claimed as a dependent, but they were not claimed as a dependent?
Unfortunately, am I unmuted, Vicki?
You're unmuted, yep.
Okay. Well, I'm in the same situation. So I'm waiting to find that answer. I have a daughter who has a developmental disability. She's 34. I did not claim her. So far, she has not received a stimulus payment. I didn't claim her, although I suppose technically I could have. So I can't get anyone to give me an answer to that question. Because the wording, as you probably know, says if a person could have been claimed as a dependent.
Right.
So that is very tricky, and I haven't been able to find out.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Good luck. I hope you get a payment. And
If I find
hope
out,
my daughter gets a payment.
I'll let you know.
Okay, great.
And Elaine is going to post the second question, which is a satisfaction question. And if you could take a minute to just answer that. So again, I want to thank our presenters, Chris Civitolo and Jean Fay, for sharing very useful information. I hope you were able to get the information to answer the questions you might have related to the many benefits that are part of COVID-19 package, and also how that can impact SSI and SSI. We are having a session on SSDI tomorrow morning, and you can access that by going to the Sherlock Center's COVID-19 page and registering for that session. Otherwise, I want to again thank our presenters and thank Elaine for helping moderate today's session, and wish you all a wonderful evening. Please stay safe, and perhaps you'll attend a future session for the Sherlock Center. Thank you.